I continue on the life instinct that's deep in all of us that allows me as a therapist to believe in my clients and know that they will make it. Just today I was looking for some books on poetry, and I came across a book that my wife and I had given to each other back in 1976. And there is about a half a page about my scare of cherishing tenderness, of closeness, and that I have to admit, I occasionally would start arguments because I was afraid that I was going to lose my separateness and be a man dominated by his wife or something if I really went to cherishing tenderness. But luckily that's only on half a page of other expressions there. Now, this fear of tenderness, particularly strong in men, is something that leaves us quite vulnerable. And as I was fighting on that half a page, I was scared of the total vulnerability of loving this woman with everything I have in me. I call this chat the grand bonus in life, because when you can move to this cherishing tenderness, as we grow older, as one of us is in the hospital, then the other is in a real cherishing, loving position. And across the decades, we have developed a closeness that would be terrifying to most people. But we each know that, as my wife says, I have me to come home to. So we have what actually I learned from Bruno Bettelheim, identity-in-relationship. We maintain our own identity, but we risk loving to the uttermost. And I'm a little scared to say it in public because, on the camera, because it's a very, very vulnerable place. And I would not like anybody ridiculing what to me is the greatest thing I've ever experienced in my life. But that vulnerability means that we have to develop some plans. And the first thing that we did in psychotherapy, when we ran into the bulwark of everybody we're encountering are having problems with real cherishing tenderness, vulnerable love. And so the first thing we did is we developed what was called an abandonment contract. And that is that if the other person decides, if you have risked this vulnerable, tender cherishing, if the other person begins to back away, we need this contract. And the contract says, and I remember one line, I don't remember the exact phrasing that we had with people, but I remember one line was, if I ever decide to move away from our relationship, you will be the first to know. If I, Frank, were to crazily fall in love with a woman, then Dixie would be the first one to know of my fascination, my attraction. And Dixie, if she fell in love with some Herculean figure or a normal guy rather than a playful, serious man, and she would tell me, I would be the first one to know. And so we made a contract with each other, and that gave another adult foundation to this cherishing. We also said that each person should develop an abandonment plan. If you really risk what I'm talking about, what will you do if the other person does say, you're the first one to know and I'll be leaving in a few weeks because I've fallen in love with Hercules or Athena or whatever. Or in our case, we have to have an abandonment plan, and knowing that one of us is going to die first. And we are so ultimately vulnerable, what will we do? Now, my wife and I talk about this every once in a while, probably once every 2 weeks or so. What will we do? We have loved the other 100%, and how will we be able to survive? And so I remember one day I told her, I know what I would do immediately. I would flip on my identity, and for 2 weeks I'd go through the house and make it mine. You know, I might take down a painting that I don't like, or I may redo the furniture, or I would open the windows more. I would go and very decidedly, I'd go through the silverware, the dishes, and I'd make the house mine. And then with a heavy heart, I would go through all our finances. I would straighten those out, talk with the banks, talk with the insurance companies, talk with whoever that taps into our funds, and try and get it straight in terms of myself. And then the third thing that I would do is I would hit the road. I don't know whether I'd go north to Canada. I've never been to Banff, and I've always wanted to. That's one option. I could go south and see my 2 nephews of my brother Johnny. They live in Arizona. I could go west and visit my daughter and my son and several friends in California. I could go east, but I have to admit, all of this seems very hollow. My wife and I both agree that we would talk to the other. I know it sounds goofy, but even if the other one is gone, we would talk aloud to them when the pain of abandonment or just being left by death really hits us. So you will see that I don't have a real polished answer to this. And my wife and I talk about it. She says what she would do. But we haven't really completed our plans, because life without the other seems like encountering an abyss, a void. But we do know that each of us would choose life, because that's our message, that's our first principle of liberation psychotherapy. Choose life. Make sure that you're living. One good thing about knowing the sachet emotions is that you know what you want. So yes, part of the plan is that we would be sad and we would cry. And part of the plan is that we would have moments of anger, maybe even at the deceased. Why in the hell did you die on me? And just see it as a narcissistic, me, die on me. And then we would have moments of scare. But then we believe, because of our life principle, that we would push through it, and we would have happiness return to our organism, because that happens to be faithfulness to the other person who we trusted and who trusted us, to keep on living and to celebrate life with excitement, and to treat life itself with tenderness. So that really completes this particular chat on the grand bonus in life. I might say one other thing, and that is no one has to choose intimacy, of which I talk. The society thinks intimacy is sexuality helped along by Viagra, I suppose. But we're talking about an intimacy of the soul partner. 2 soul partners really joining in love. But no one has to do it. If you want to live in solitude, that's perfectly okay. I would encourage you to love life.